welcome back to Amazingly Average, the show with advice for amazingly average authors and actors. My name is John, and I'm back sooner than anticipated. So soon that, in fact, I'm actually wearing my pajamas because it's 4:35 in the morning. I decided that in the brief hiatus between Season 1 and Season 2 of Amazingly Average that I'm actually going to cover the MTV show Scream, which is starting its second season on May 30th, which is this coming Monday. My hope is that this is going to become Terrifying Tuesday, where I cover the show, and it's probably going to become Whoops Wednesday because I work double shifts all the time, so life happened. Beware, there's going to be spoilers of both Season 1 and of the Scream movies. I'm going to provide spark notes of Season 1 right now. The MTV show Scream differs from the Scream movies because it's not in the same universe, but it has the same energy of it because there's a mass killer who's disguising their voice. They're stalking and haunting their victims using both technology and social media. The Sidney Prescott of the Scream MTV series is Emma Duvall, played by Willa Fitzgerald. Decades before the plot of the series, there was a disfigured boy named Brandon James who became a mass murderer in one night. Essentially, he had a confrontation with Kevin Duvall, who is Emma's father. The two of them had a fight about Daisy, who was Kevin's girlfriend, and we come to learn is actually Maggie Duvall, Emma's mom. Maggie and Brandon James were childhood friends who lived next to each other, but when Maggie found out that Kevin had sex with one of her friends, she was crying in a bowling alley that Brandon James worked at. He was comforting her, and they kind of hooked up. So Kevin confronts Brandon, and then Brandon murders a whole bunch of people. He goes to meet Daisy at the boat docks. The police end up shooting Brandon. Here we are at the beginning of the series. So we meet Emma Duvall, who is essentially in the popular crowd, but she's a nice girl, so she's kind of like Lindsay Lohan at the beginning of Mean Girls, except she's not from South Africa and she's not a redhead. We meet the essential horror genre characters in this show, except because it's a TV show, we actually get to know them a little bit more, so they're not just caricatures. There's Noah, who is the Randy Meeks kind of character of the show. He's kind of like the narrator and a little bit dorky, but he's a fan favorite. We meet Audrey, the black sheep. There's Will, who's like the sporty jock, and he's Emma's boyfriend. There's Jake, who is also a jock, and he's kind of a dick. There's Riley, who's another popular girl, and she's also nice. Oh no, two nice girls in the popular crowd. Know what that means? Stab, stab. There's Brooke Maddox, who is the promiscuous one. We meet Piper Shaw, who is like the Gail Weathers of the show, and she runs her own podcast. There's Kieran, who's the sheriff's son, and he's kind of a loner, and he appears in town after his mom and stepfather mysteriously died in a car accident, so he's kind of like the Billy Loomis of the show, minus the sleaze factor, and he radiates sincerity, which, you know, I think that's all credit to the actor. But when you have a name like Amadeus, you're bound to be a good actor. There are other characters like Sheriff Hudson and the mayor, etc., but we'll get to them later. Time for the spark notes. There's a popular bitch named Nina who posts a video of Audrey kissing another girl named Rachel in a car. She posts it on the internet and it goes viral. Nina goes home, she gets her throat slashed, and neither her Pomeranian nor the incompetent Siri are able to help her. Siri was calling the Pottery Barn instead of 911. Bam. Nina's dead. Emma starts getting calls from the killer, and basically the killer wants to play this game where no matter what she does, he's just gonna kill her friends anyway. Brooke is screwing the really handsome teacher, and I don't know if it's just like a surface level attraction or if they actually like each other, but she's not even doing it for extra credit. Noah is surprised that Riley actually likes him. Will and Jake are blackmailing the mayor, who's also Brooke's dad. There's footage of him on his home security camera dragging a dead body into like a footlocker in their garage. How did Jake and Will get this footage from the mayor's security camera in his own house? Nina's death brings Piper Shaw into town, who's going to cover the murder on her podcast, Autopsy of a Crime, or Autopsy of a Murder, I don't remember which. The whole time they're playing this whole Brandon James is back thing, which, you know, is it his ghost? The masked killer shows up, attacks the girl Rachel, who's the girl that Audrey kissed, and he puts a noose around her neck, throws her off the balcony. The killer hangs her from her ceiling fan, so that way it looks like a suicide, but in the coroner's office, they find out that her injuries do not correspond to a suicide, but in fact a murder. Shortly after Nina's death, there is a party at Brooke's house, which, by the way, Brooke is obviously a minor, and she is always in the liquor store getting alcohol. Jay Quallen, what you doing? At the party, Emma finds out that Will slept with Nina and she gets pissed and she ends up kissing Kieran. At one point, Emma is forced to pick between her friends Riley and Brooke at which one the killer's going to attack. Because Riley's in a police station, Emma says, "Stay put," and then she says to the killer, "Do not attack Brooke," while she goes to look for Brooke. The killer tricks Riley into leaving the police station, stabs her, she ends up bleeding out on the roof of the police station. Riley is dead. While Audrey and Emma trace the killer back to this hospital, which is set up like a killer's lair, they end up finding the dismembered head of Tyler, who everybody thought was the murderer because he disappeared shortly after Nina was murdered. They find Tyler's dismembered head in this hospital, they freak out, they see the Brandon James mask. A sex tape of Emma and Will gets leaked, and she finds out that Nina made a bet with Will that he couldn't sleep with her inside of a month, and it got filmed. Emma calls Will out on his crap, and it is game over for William. She starts hooking up with Kieran after he takes her for target practice out in the woods, which, by the way, it's really awkward because Kieran's dad is Sheriff Hudson. Sheriff Hudson and Emma's mom are kind of like hooking up, and then Kieran and Emma hook up. At one point he says, "Did you two make like a weird mother-daughter sex bet?" Which in itself is like a really weird thing to say at the start of a relationship. This new bitchy cop takes over the investigation after Riley's parents try suing Sheriff Hudson for not calling out a murder investigation sooner, which could have prevented Riley's death, yada yada yada. Basically, this bitchy cop finds out that Audrey's DNA was on the inside of the mask that they found in the hospital, so she's now a suspect. Audrey steals the bitchy sheriff's phone out of her purse, calls Emma and Noah, and tells them to go to her house and destroy an SD card with some incriminating footage on it. Emma and Noah watch this footage, and it looks like Audrey was about to confront Nina about the kissing video. Ding ding ding, alarms are going off. I think somebody is related to these murders now. Will wants to stop blackmailing the mail. Will wants to stop blackmailing the mayor, so he goes with Piper Shaw to meet the mayor, hands over the footage of the security camera where he's moving a dead body, and then the mayor says, "Be careful, there's a killer out there." He walks away, and not 3 seconds later, the killer shows up. It knocks over Will, Piper falls over and bangs her head on something and blacks out as she sees Will get dragged away. Jake ends up getting stabbed off camera at some point, and I thought this was a reference to Scream 4, where Emma tries to throw the cops off of her track by stabbing herself, so I thought that Jake was involved with the killing. Basically, they save Will, and then Will dies anyway. He gets chopped in half by some farm technology, which, by the way, was like the grisliest kill of the entire season. Brooke and Professor Sexy go to bang on the set of the school play after rehearsal, and I had the most questions about the fact that there was a couch on the set of some castle. I thought this was a reference maybe to like the infamous casting couch or whatever, but you know, I don't know. Basically, they're about to bang, and then the professor hears the sound, so he goes to investigate. The killer comes, stabs Brooke in the arm, and then the killer disappears. Professor Gorgeous shows back up again. He is framed, and then he's taken to jail. This whole scene, by the way, was very much like the end of Scream 2, where they're on the set of a play. Emma's dad, who walked out on their family when she was 8, ends up visiting her in the hospital, and then she finds out from a dream, which is actually a flashback. He walked out on the family because he found out that Maggie had a child with Brandon James. Dun dun dun! The plot thickens. The season ends with 2 episodes about the Halloween dance, which is conveniently when Brandon James murdered a whole bunch of people. You know, it comes full circle. Basically, everybody starts running away from the school dance when they see a televised footage of Sheriff Hudson being strapped to a tree at the hands of the killer. Brooke is throwing a rager, and every suspect and their mother literally shows up at her house. Emma ends up getting a text from the killer saying to meet her at the boat docks where Brandon James was murdered. She shows up, and it's Piper. I was kind of pissed because if Piper was attacked by a masked killer, she shouldn't have been the masked killer. She's avenging her father, and as she's divulging her plan, Audrey pops out of the forest and shoots her. Piper falls into the water. You know that thing at the end of all the Scream movies where the killer comes back to life no matter how impossibly dead they are? She comes back out of the water, Emma shoots her in the head. The end. Or is it? No. We see that Audrey was burning some letters that she apparently had sent to Piper, and they were having some sort of back and forth. So Audrey is somehow involved with all of this, and we don't know how much. One thing that she probably did was end up attacking Will and Piper a couple episodes prior. My suspicion the whole time was that there were 2 killers, and I thought that they were Audrey and Jake, and it's still possible that Jake's involved with it because he was only attacked off screen. And the fact that there's a killer in season 2 suggests that maybe he is still involved with it. Sorry, I'm being really quiet right now. I just realized that somebody woke up upstairs and I don't want to scream. From what we can see in the trailer of season 2, there's a bunch of new students. Emma comes back from what's probably an insane amount of therapy sessions after seeing a bunch of her friends get butchered. And then there's a scene with Brooke where she gets splattered in blood, just like Carrie on prom night. Apparently each episode is going to have the title of some famous scary movie, and there'll be some references in there. And the first one is I Know What You Did Last Summer. There are 2 leaked scenes from the first episode. The first one shows Audrey working in a movie theater. Whoa, a masked killer shows up. Masked killer stabs some chick who was like talking to Audrey. She freaks out. She gets a knife knife, because there is a knife in the movie theater. She stabs the mass killer, and then the chick who was supposedly dead comes back and was like, dude, it was a prank. I think if you're going to prank somebody who just watched a bunch of people get butchered by pretending to be the killer, that you kind of deserve to get stabbed, you mother trucker. The other scene is one in which Audrey gets a phone call from somebody using the same voice changer as season 1, and they basically say that she's a killer and they know what she did last summer. Where's Jennifer Love Hewitt? We also have Lex Taylor Klaus and John Carna, Audrey and Noah, by Curious and the Virgin, hosted a live viewing of the season 2 trailer, and they said at the time that they hadn't finished filming the series yet. The way that they were talking about everything, it makes it sound like they were still both alive at that point, so they're probably going to be alive for a few episodes. In the trailer, there was a crap ton of scenes with Brooke, so Brooke is probably getting around for a few episodes. There's definitely some stuff I'm glossing over, but hopefully I will see you next Tuesday.